Hi, welcome aboard. A couple of months ago we showed you for the first time on Australian television the Wave King Platypus inflatable boats. Now, these boats are extremely interesting. Their genesis is in South Africa, where they're used for racing over there. In fact, some of these races run up to 300 kilometres. They launch through the surf, run up or down the coast, and then arrive at the finishing point about 300 kilometres away. The racing is fast and furious. The boats have a huge amount of performance, as you can see from these pictures. And the hull form has been developed as a result of that racing heritage. In fact, under the water, these boats are very similar to Formula One power boats in that they are effectively tunnel hulls with very sharp keels down either side of the boat. In fact, the basic hull configuration is catamaran, and that's achieved by having a very rigid flat floor and by running two small diameter sub-tubes down inside or underneath the main tubes and then filling the gap in with very heavy-duty vinyl. Now, John Shrewsbury is a man of great energy, and he moved from South Africa late last year and set up a manufacturing facility on Queensland's Gold Coast. And he builds these boats in his factory down on the Gold Coast. In fact, it's one of the few full production manufacturing facilities for inflatable boats in Australia. They're built to extremely high standards, they're beautifully finished, they're very strong, and they're capable of withstanding a huge amount of punishment. Now, John's energy extended to desiring to set up a similar racing situation in Australia as the one that exists in South Africa. He formed the Australian Inflatable Boat Pilots Association and he's been running a series of races. Now, recently he met with Chuck Gard of SeaWorld on the Gold Coast and negotiated with Chuck to run a series of race meetings in SeaWorld's water ski lake. Now, this is the very first time that SeaWorld has ever had anything other than the ski show on this lake, and it certainly is a breakthrough from that point of view. The lake is a superb venue. It's an extremely tight course. The boats are able to be watched all around the course by spectators located around the lake, and the racing certainly is fast and furious. Now, last Sunday was the first of the Australian Inflatable Boat Pilots Association races at SeaWorld. The two-heat series, practice in the morning and then two heats in the afternoon, was so successful that it could well become a regular feature of SeaWorld's offering, and it will certainly add to one of the best water ski shows in the world, and it's undisputed that the SeaWorld ski show is one of the best in the world. This will add a new dimension of very hot competition and very hard racing to SeaWorld's offering of a Sunday afternoon. Now, the field was quite reasonable. There were 9 boats necessitating 2 heats. Each heat ran for 12 laps, and the lead and minor positions changed several times during those 12 laps, giving a very good idea of just how competitive and how equal these boats are. Now, every inflatable boat which races has to have a motor of 750 cc's capacity. And that means that some run with 40 and some run with 50 horsepower. It's possible to do a little bit of breathing on the outboard motor to get a bit more performance, but because of that, the performance of the boat, particularly in a competitive situation, is directly dependent upon the skill of the driver and of his co-driver. And as you can see from these shots, it's very easy to lose the boat on a tight turn and to spin out with quite spectacular results. And when the boat is negotiating a tight turn, the co-pilot has to lean right over one side in order to help the boat around the turn. Now, what that does is push the side of the boat, the bow of the boat that's closest to the buoy, down into the water and allow the boat to pivot around that bow, making the turn much tighter. So the racing, as I said, was fast and furious. There were 2 12-lap heats. Surprisingly, we did not have the same boat win in both heats. In fact, in Heat 1, Jason Ranger from Slade's Paradise Point Marina won the first heat, with Steve Mexted second. Steve races privately, is not from a team. And in Heat 2, Rob Thomas from the Wave King team won the heat, and Dale Jenkins from Jenkins Brothers Racing team won the second place. Now, this certainly, I had a close look as we were shooting this segment, and it certainly is shaping up to be a very significant racing class. In fact, I was surprised at just how keen and how serious the pilots of these boats are about racing. They treat their boats very carefully, they tune them, they make sure that they are in racing trim. The boats are all scrutineered before the races, by the way, to make sure that they are standard. There are two basic hull configurations. One is the standard Wave King and the other one is a Wave King Hammerhead, which effectively looks like a pickle fork Formula One racing boat with the bows sticking out in front of a central trampoline on either side. So you can have some variation in hull form, you can have some variation in horsepower and of course in the way the boat is set up, but each engine must have 750 cc's. Now, in spite of the fact that these boats are very spectacular to watch and to drive, they are also extremely safe. And if somebody has a competitive urge, for around about $10,000 for the complete rig, it's a very, very cheap and reasonably priced way to get into some very, very hot competition. We'll be back right after this break.